Hello, English 242 students. Welcome to week 11 or module 11. This week we're going to talk about Wilfred Owen. We'll talk about Siegfried Sassoon, and we'll talk about Virginia Woolf. So I'm going to get started with the lecture so that you can do the lecture quiz and then get busy with the readings for this week. First, we're going to talk about Wilfred Owen, who lived from 1893 to 1918. He was born in Shropshire, England, and showed early promise as a writer and as a student. And after serving as an assistant to a clergyman in France, he enlisted in the British Army in 1915. His time in the trenches of World War I exposed him to unimaginable suffering, and in 1917 he was diagnosed with shell shock, what's known now as PTSD, and he was sent to recover at Craig Lockhart War Hospital. There, he met fellow poet Siegfried Sassoon, who had became his mentor and inspired him to write honest and brutal poetry about the realities of war. Owen's work, much of it published posthumously after his death, is known for its vivid imagery, compassion for common soldiers, and anger at the betrayal of the patriotic ideals that were forced upon the soldiers. He was killed in action on November 4th, 1918, just 1 week before the end of World War I. Today, Owen is recognized as one of the most important war poets in English history. We are reading from Wilfred Owen, Dulce et Decorum Est. Dulce et Decorum Est begins not with fanfare, but with exhaustion. Owen's soldiers in the poem are bent double, coughing through mud and gas. They're not heroes, but survivors, physically broken and emotionally numb. Suddenly, a gas attack erupts, and in the chaos, one man fails to put on his gas mask in time. The speaker watches helplessly as his comrade drowns in gas, guttering, choking, drowning. The poem then addresses the reader directly. If you had seen this, then you would not repeat the old lie in Latin, dulce et decorum est pro patria mori, that it is sweet and proper to die for one's country. In other words, Owen is saying it's not sweet, nor is it proper to die for one's country. Owen's genius lies in his ability to pair graphic realism with formal structure. He uses rhyme and vivid metaphor, not to soothe, but to disturb the reader. The poem is an accusation against blind patriotism, against propaganda, and against the idea that suffering can be noble. Next, we're going to cover poet Siegfried Sassoon, who lived from 1886 until 1967. Sassoon was born into a wealthy English Jewish family and was educated at Cambridge and enjoyed a leisurely life as a country gentleman and an amateur poet. When war broke out in 1914, he joined the British Army and served with distinction, earning a military cross for his bravery. But Sassoon's admiration for soldierly duty turned to fury at the war's waste and deception. In 1917, he wrote a public letter denouncing the war as unnecessary and prolonged by incompetent leadership. Rather than court-martial him, the army sent him to Craig Lockhart, where he met Wilfred Owen. Sassoon's war poems use sarcasm, biblical parody, and dark humor to expose the hypocrisy of religious, political, and military institutions. After the war, he continued writing fiction and poetry and remained a vocal critic of war throughout his life. In They, Sassoon confronts the way religious rhetoric is used to justify the horrors of war. The poem features a conversation between a bishop and returning soldiers. The bishop speaks in grand and moral terms. The soldiers, he says, have fought the enemy of God and have come back changed. The soldiers reply that they are indeed changed, but not spiritually. One has lost his legs, another an eye, and another his mind. The bishop's response, the ways of God are strange, is dismissive and even insulting to the soldiers. Sassoon uses irony and juxtaposition to show how distant the clergy and by extension, society, are from the real cost of war. The poem demands that readers listen not to speeches, but to wounds suffered by soldiers in war. Next is Virginia Woolf, who lived from 1882 until 1941. Woolf was one of the most influential literary figures of the 20th century. Born into a prominent intellectual family in London, she was educated at home and began writing early. Woolf was a central figure in the Bloomsbury Group, a circle of writers, artists, and philosophers who challenged Victorian norms about gender, art, and politics. Her novels, including Mrs. Dalloway, To the Lighthouse, and Orlando, are known for their psychological depth and their stream of consciousness style. Woolf struggled with mental illness throughout her life and died by suicide in 1941. Her feminist essay, A Room of One's Own, published in 1929, remains a cornerstone of women's literary history. In A Room of One's Own, Woolf argues that in order for women to write fiction, they need two things: money and a room of their own. More than just physical necessities, these two things represent freedom from dependence, distraction, and social expectation. Woolf explores the history of women writers, or rather, their absence. She imagines Judith Shakespeare, a sister of William Shakespeare, who is just as gifted as he is, but denied education, agency, and opportunity. Judith, like so many real women, ends in tragedy, not because she lacked talent, but because society refused to let her use it. Woolf's style is elegant and exploratory, and it blends narrative, argument, and reflection. She does not shout with the reader, she reasons. Yet the impact is deeply political. She exposes how male privilege, institutional bias, and economic inequality have silenced women's voices in literature. Where Owen and Sassoon document literal war, Woolf fights a cultural and intellectual battle, one that continues to this day. Together, this week's writers demand that readers reject comforting illusions, whether about war, gender, or duty. Their work reminds us that the most urgent voices are often those society tries hardest to ignore. All right, so today that was the lecture for Owen, Sassoon, and Wolf. We're calling this lecture Writing Against the Silence. So this week you have to do the readings, the three readings that I just mentioned. You also have to write the 150-word reflection, complete the lecture quiz, and then do the discussion board post and replies. Again, the discussion board posts and replies move back now to that normal weekly convention of you having to post by Wednesday and then replying by Sunday. Also, this week is an opportunity for extra credit points in the literary analysis peer review. So please post in that peer review forum there if you'd like those extra points and reply to at least one other student to get the full 10 points. And it must be a complete reply that answers the questions and does all those things. You can get partial points for doing partial work, but you only get the 10 points if you completely do everything I've asked you to do in that forum. If you have any questions, please reach out to me. I hope that everything is going well. Grading is ongoing. It's taking a minute, but it's ongoing. Hope to get everything graded as soon as possible and have all the feedback to you as you need it. All right. Have a great week. Thank you.